WarsawJS.
Hey, okay, cool. So somebody did a talk about cross-platform, and that was really cool because we have built a new runtime for cross-platform that does a lot of the things that the gentleman was talking about. So let's dive right into it. So one code base, obviously, runs on every platform. Our runtime supports iOS, macOS, Android, Windows, Linux, Xbox, the web, and a bunch of other things, actually, like Android TV, stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, any front-end library. So there was just a conference announced that was very cool sounding. There was about 8-10 different things that were showcased on that front page. Next.js, React. Everybody here has their favorite framework that they want to use, right? And so we support anything that runs on the web. So it doesn't matter what language, what framework you want to use, it supports it. And that's super important because this is always changing, right? So yeah, bring your own favorite front-end library. And it also supports these really interesting things that browsers can't do, like an actual file system that's backed by a cross-platform, well, actually, that's backed by libuv. So we have a single dependency. And with that, we're able to provide you all of these really interesting things, just like Node. And the reason why we did that was because everybody knows how Node works. The underlying implementation is slightly different and more efficient, but it is ready for you to just sink your teeth into and start being productive. Why another runtime? Well, Electron, desktop only. It's ancient. It's also, aging. Maintaining that code base is very difficult, as any other contributor will say. Flutter. You got to learn this thing called Dart. Tori, you got to learn a thing called Rust. This is just a non-starter for the majority demographic of web developers. And React Native, well, you don't have any of the browser APIs. And Cordova, if anybody remembers that, it's, I don't know, about 15 years old or something. It's been sort of surpassed by Capacitor, which is Cordova. This is also an aging code base and fairly difficult to maintain. And the big problem with all of these things is that these runtimes don't create a boundary between the developer code and the user's operating system, and Socket does. So what we do is we, instead of, if you've seen something like Tori or if you've used something like Electron, what happens is it just runs on your computer. There's no sandboxing between the process that runs and the access it has to do whatever it wants on your computer. With Socket, all of the developer code is actually sandboxed, and it runs inside a sort of protected area where it's not able to do anything that you don't whitelist with a CSP. So that's the reason why we did that. Okay, so yeah, build native apps for desktop and mobile using your favorite technology that you already know. Okay, so that's the pitch for this thing. Okay, so what I'd like to do is, here we've got a blank terminal. Okay, where are we? We're in a directory. Okay, the way that you install this new runtime is by going to our website, and it's a single npm install, or it's a curl, and you can just go to socketsupply.co, just like this, and you can see right there, npm install or curl or IWR if you're a Windows user. I don't even know how that works. Okay, so cool. So after I install it, I can do something like, oops. I can do something like this. It creates a little bit of boilerplate, just a little bit. So if I open up an editor and I look at what it created, that's it. Just some CSS, a little bit of HTML, and that's all. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Here we go. Okay, cool. It's saying, cool, do you want to do that? Okay, cool, we have a native app. We just built it. The upside from this is that if you look at the build artifacts that were created, oops. Okay, so here's the binary. Oops, we want to do something like make this human readable. Okay, This is a 1.5 megabyte binary. So if you compare this to Electron, Electron is a 200 megabyte binary. And that's just the baseline for getting started, right? So this binary is absolutely tiny. So you can ship the super small applications using Socket. The way that's possible is because it's using a component that's in the OS called the WebView. And so WebView, it ships with every major operating system these days. And some people might tell you, oh, the WebView is inconsistent across operating systems. Well, we fixed that. So we normalized WebView across all of these operating systems so that it's the exact same experience for every developer who uses it and creates a UI. Okay, so that's kind of like an example of generating some code. So here's another one where I just did init. It created some stuff here. And so what I did was, to save some time here, I just wrote something while I was sitting over there, which is, I created a script tag inside my document, right? Import dgram. Has anybody heard of UDP before? We got some network engineers in the house. Okay, so cool. So, we support all these networking primitives and things like this, just like Node, and we support a buffer too. And so what I do here is, this is pretty simple. I create a dgram socket inside this page. Wild. Okay, so when there's a message on the socket, I create an element, and then I take the data, and I assign it to that element, and then I append it to the body. And then I take the socket, and I bind it to a port. Okay, cool. So that's what's happening in this code. So let's run this. Okay. All right. And so now we have this thing running. And here it is. Okay. And I'm just going to move this guy over. I'm going to move this guy over a little bit too. Okay. And then down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a program called netcat. And I'm going to talk to this computer on port 4000. Okay, and then I'm just going to put some stuff in there, and boom, we see it over here in this UI. They're talking back and forth. Now, what this demonstrates to you is that an old school networking tool like netcat, which is on everybody's computer, is going to have the correct, it's going to have the correct implementation to be able to talk over this UDP protocol to this application. And so this application is capable of most of the same things that Node.js. You've probably used Node or Bun or Dino. These runtimes, they're for building server applications. Socket is for building client-side applications. The browser is no longer the only runtime on the client side. And Socket is here to replace React Native, Electron, and all of these things, so web developers can build software using the web stack, using all of their favorite libraries, all of their favorite tools, and it will just work, and it will work safely because it's using web, all of the standard web security technology. So that's it.
Does anyone have any questions for Paolo about Socket? Client side. Yes, of course, sir. You have a question. And it's probably a good one, too.
What kind of WebView do you use on Linux? Qt WebView?
So the WebKit GDK is a shared library, and we link to it, and then compile that in at compile time. And so it's the same experience across all the OSs.
Okay.
Yeah.
GDK.
Yeah.
Thanks for the speech. It sounds like this tool is amazing. I was wondering, are there any limitations of this thing at all? Thanks.
Well, obviously, so the question is, are there any limitations to this thing and what it can't do? Well, I mean, the reason why we created it was for web developers to be able to do what web developers do best, right? So the limitations are, sorry, okay. So the question was, what are the limitations of this? Well, it can do anything that a browser can do, and it can do more than that. But, there are certain things that it doesn't do yet, that it can't do yet. things that we'd like it to do. And those things are, some of them are on our roadmap, so you can check out our roadmap and see what that looks like. We're totally open to taking suggestions for features, improvements. You know, we're working on, you know, providing an API for GPU. You know, we're really excited about being able to load, you know, AI into it and be able to run that locally. And that's a big thing that we're working on right now, because we've just shipped a feature quite recently, peer-to-peer, which allows developers to be able to create these web apps and then connect them. And so that is a protocol that works over UDP. You know, so it does really different stuff than a browser does. It does things that browsers may never do, or aren't able to do, because getting buy-in from all the vendors would be too difficult. If that, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I got.
Thank you very much. Paolo Fragomeni, all the way from New York to make this presentation lightning talk. Thank you, sir, very, very much. We appreciate it.